You are listening to Accents, a radio show for literature, art, and culture. I'm your host, Katerina Stoikova, and my guest is poet and writer Karen George. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Katerina?
Doing great. Very excited to have you on Accents. And let me introduce you to our listeners. Karen George is author of 5 chapbooks and 2 poetry collections from Dos Madres Press, Swim Your Way Back and A Map and 1 Year. Her work is published in South Dakota Review, Valparaiso Poetry Review, Adirondack Review, and Louisville Review. She reviews poetry at Poetry Matters blog and is co-founder and fiction editor of the online journal Waypoints. So what have you been writing these days?
I've been working on 3 different collections that I'll read towards the end, the newer works. 3 different collections, and I'll talk a little bit about them when I get there.
That's super exciting. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Katerina. I'll start with some poems from my first full-length collection, Swim Your Way Back. And it was about my husband and a cruise that we took to Alaska a few months before he died, to give you a little background. Grace. A friend sent her essay about a great blue heron that flew across her car's hood, so close she could have touched it without the windshield in the way. She lived near a river where they nested in treetops. Her family, mired in crises, the bird in flight yanked her back. I thanked her, said her story salvaged me. You, near the end, not eating, barely sipping, each day more skeletal. She vowed to send a heron our way. 2 dawns later, on our lake bank, spindly legs, neck an elongated S-curve, bill like twin blades. I slowed, lowered my window, memorized the scruffy plume feathers, the black striped from eye to crown, and when it turned its pale face, to tell you every detail, how my breath ebbed when I met its onyx gaze, how I became bodiless. But for eyes, nose, and ears, the lake water sweet and feral, the snap as the wings unlatched. The last day of our Alaskan cruise, we entered Glacier Bay as the sun was rising, and this poem's title refers to calving, which is a term that describes the sudden breaking off of large chunks of glacier that fall into the sea with a sound like thunder. Calving at Glacier Bay. We wake before dawn, rise to the promenade deck, while the onboard naturalist broadcasts seeds of glacial wisdom. As our ship cues to enter the inner sanctum, thousands maneuver for spots at the rail. Ice floes bob, unveiled by tendrils of first light. Many hold hands while we glide through the bay's mouth. So much silence. Even he no longer explains how slabs of ice cleave and seconds later, thunder crack and impact arrive. Cloistered by cliffs of blue ice, our lungs bathed in elemental air, we spoon to view the sacred text, and I believe every wrong unwound. All ebb back to innocence, your cancer cured. And this is the last one from that collection. Where your eyes swim. I ask you to close your almond eyes. They roam the bedroom, rest on the telescope, hoop drum, bookshelf. Earlier, I'd read you Rumi, Neruda, Lee Young Lee. On the dresser, next to the open photo album of long gone family, lies the birds of Kentucky. A toothpick holds the place of the finch you'd seen hours earlier on the hill beyond our patio. The bird, I could not tell you, was a coiled oak leaf. Each day your eyes gaze farther backward instead of forward. Each time they fall on me, I hold my breath until you recognize me. I lean toward your face, hairless as a newborn's, smoothing the pads of my thumbs across the ridge where your eyebrows had been. I hum Amazing Grace. Beneath your lids, the pupils swim like minnows below the skin of a lake. The next poems I'll read are from my latest collection, A Map in 1 Year. Came out in 2018, and these are all found poems. I created the poems from words that were in poems of poets I liked, and some of them I used pages from novels, and even things like Vincent van Gogh's letters and Frida Kahlo's diaries. This first one was composed from words found in Niobe Shihab Nye's poem, Walking Down Blanco at Midnight. Contained. Own the quiet. Feel your way to the edges of sleep, like walking toward light on the horizon. Folding yourself toward the heart center, the place everything begins. And this one was composed from a writer that I first met at a writer's conference in Kentucky, and it's a poem, Ada Lemone's poem, Tattoo Theory. It's called The Shape of Want. Tell me about the loves, and I'll translate remembered sadness and spite into a map of countable punctures you can read, like lowing animals kept in inky stillness. A lot of the poems in this collection are very short. This one's a little bit longer. This is composed from words found in Tess Gallagher's poem, Urgent Story. The Red Urge. As dark encompasses light, a woman crosses a meadow for home, dives into longing as a bee into jasmine, her body imprinted. Cricket beats sweeten the quiet, a story of trample and joy, shaped like the arc of an eye. She savors one moment of him, standing at the sink, the full soak of lemon he broke open. She owns the nudge of knowing, takes as her compass the rich flick of bird across sky, hum of root-drenched earth. This one was composed from words found in Lucia Perillo's poem, At St. Placid's. Dream Brood. A man and woman cross a field, roost beneath knitted trees, squinting into fuchsia sun, they swim on the sound of falling water. His hand on her thigh pulls like a bell, unfolds a moment, a window into fine silence, bone blue. This was composed from words found in Anthony Doerr's, D-O-E-R-R-S, novel, All the Light We Cannot See. And I just took a random page, page 122. I was lucky enough to travel to Paris a few years ago with Spalding University, and my hotel room was on the 8th floor. I had the loveliest view of all the rooftops of Paris. Memory, full like a lava flow. That last evening in Paris, slipping into sleep, window open, 1,000 rooftops, stacked chimneys, the city's golden arteries settling into shadow. So that's all I'm going to read from A Map in 1 Year. And the next are all newer poems. The next two are from a collection of found poems I'm doing final revisions on. And this one was composed from words in Bridget Pagine Kelly's poem, Divining the Field. Green openings. In a weedy field, trembling with crows, a woman lusts, strips, flings herself into the spectacle of being a crow. Her wings, arrows, she devours the sky. High in a leafy oak nest, she portions skewered fruit for fledglings. Same as she pieces out time between roost and the yellow house with a wingless man, where she purples flowers, assembles stones. Sometimes she forgets her body, opens herself into a golden flame, or sometimes a shaft to wound. And this next poem is a found poem composed from Sarah Howe's poem, Life Room. At the ocean lip, the pleated shore, sky a marbled eye opens. Sunk to my ankles, I struggle not to tip against the guttering rush, but I'm crumpled, snatched back by the blind sling of curl and unfurl in this blue-green quickening, tilted with memories. I slough what I don't want, crawl concave from the heavy, open, implacable mouth. Besides writing poetry, I also write fiction, and I love to take photographs. And art is another one of my obsessions. I'm working on a collection inspired by the work and life of the artists Georgia O'Keeffe, Frida Kahlo, and Emily Carr. And they all lived around the same time. At least one of them, Frida Kahlo, met Georgia O'Keeffe at one time. But they have similar themes and lives in many ways. So this is one of the poems, and it's titled Georgia O'Keeffe's Zinnias, 1921. Sherbet colors, edges rounded but for a green stem, a leaf blade, 3 flowers fuzzy as if viewed through wavy glass or a glare of sun. 1 white, 1 soft pink, 1 raspberry, painted against pale, dreamy blue. Sex organs flecked yellow at the center. 1 zinnia's lower petals silvery, an array of curved moons starting their spent descent to earth. Sweet haze of summer heat. How objects look when you fall asleep. Bleary, fluid as you slip into the dream where your husband returns to life. Body no longer scarred, lungs unhampered, spine perfectly aligned, lips supple plums, and you wake, a sweet bitter tang on your tongue, as if you'd bitten into plush, heady petals. These last 2 poems are from a collection of actual dreams, daydreams, and visions that I'm finishing up. And this one is called, and these 2 that I'll read are actual dreams that I had. Let's make a pact on remembrance. I dream of our last home together before your death. It's winter. I need to get those quilts, you say. Enter the fireplace that winds to attic rooms. Through the aperture, you pass me 7 antique handpiece and stitched blankets. Honeycomb, bear paw, crown of thorns patterns. We burrow beneath their rich, clear colors, turquoise of the sea, yellow of lemon peel, violet that mirrors your eyes and lips. Where did these come from, I ask? You can't remember. It was so long ago since I walked on that side, you say? I kiss your lips, cold from your journey back. I wake to the taste of blueberries, your voice pleading. Let's make a pact on remembrance. The next one is called Solstice Dream, December. Winding through Kentucky hill country, I pull over, enter a store to buy Christmas stamps. They also sell tiny motorhomes I might want, but not today. The line is too long. I step outside. Last night's rain peppers the air, sluices down a hill. No, a mountain so tall I lean back to sight its peak. In ice fog, beneath a contorted bristlecone pine, a snow leopard unfolds from sleep. Its long, thick tail rises, a warning. Knee-high flowers, a kind I've never seen, mantle the slope. Voluminous aspects to the bloom, plump violet pincushion, needle-pierced, capped with orange and turquoise gemstones, layers of crinoline ruffles with feathered edges, veined ink black. I wake with their viscous scent, a braid of lilac, lily of the valley, and an egg sizzling in butter. Tilt back into the dream, dizzy with longing, to find that shadow shape, its dense silver fur flecked with dark rosettes. Then this is just one of the poems that I wrote a couple days ago, and it reflects the coronavirus time that we're in, this strange era. It's called Headlong, April 20th, 2020. Driving to pick up fresh eggs from a poet with hens, I pass red crabapples and Yoshino cherries, one full bloom, the other a tad faded. I crave the romaine salad with 2 hard-boiled eggs I'll eat for supper. My first salad since social distancing began. Dressing, olive oil, red wine vinegar, peanut butter, pepper. Crisp, succulent green leaves, creamy luxury of orange yolk. At an intersection, on pavement in front of my car, a Cooper's hawk. I grab for my camera, but the light turns green and 2 vehicles behind me want to accelerate. Edging closer, I see the hawk grips a house finch in its talons. Horrified, I inch toward it, hope it bolts. Head turned my way, its large dark eyes pin me. A horn honks, I roll more. The raptor swings its wings open, slings itself upward, a blur, zooms over my roof. I turn right, unsettled, clamped by the hawk's long, thick banded tail, slate wings, black cap, hooked beak. Maybe chicks squawk in a nest, mouths ached open. I can't be sure the finch did not escape the panicked descent. It remains inert. It remained inert, maybe stunned or playing dead. As I drive toward the eggs, I frame the hawk as coronavirus, the finch as the elderly and compromised. But I can't deny the hawk's beauty, divinity, the imagined softness of its striped russet breast, ruffled, blasting past me.
Thank you so much, Karen. These are fantastic. How exciting to work on 3 projects and to have all of them close to ready. That's what I heard.
Yes.
Yeah. So how is your fiction writing?
Well, I'm still working on it. I've written a couple flash fiction stories recently, and then I have a ton of stories that I'm still doing editings and revising. But I'm writing more poetry. I seem to be having more success getting that published than the fiction, but I'm not going to give up on it. I love fiction writing, so I will continue it.
And may I ask a couple of questions about the found poems?
Sure.
So, okay, so what is the difference between found poems from the words of and erasures?
From my understanding, erasures, you take an actual page of the poetry and you can either black out the words that you don't want to be in your poem or just circle the ones and you use them in the exact order that they're in the poem. Where for my found poems, I just picked out words from the poems and wrote them on a separate paper, and then I just kind of, use those to place together and make a poem of my own.
Like magnetic poetry in a way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How about that? Wonderful. Thank you. I have this idea of writing a few of my own. So, but I have just it's so far at the idea stage. But you're giving me several ways to make first step towards making that a reality. Very
and
exciting.
you can use any source. I think the only real rule that I've heard is that you're supposed to cite the source that the words were chosen from.
And you've written a number of those. You have a book of found poems already, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So have you ever given back? Have you ever shown your found poems to the person you found them from?
I have not. I've thought about it, but I haven't.
Well, I mean, if I'm someone who has inspired a poem, I would love to see it. I would love to read it.
Yeah.
So, just a thought.
Yes.
How wonderful to see you, Karen. How wonderful to hear your poems, and really appreciate you coming on the show. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.